Hi, and welcome to Toni Time. Well, we have a very special person on our show today. Here's a hint. She's my niece. She lives in LA, and she's in Maine visiting her aunt. And my nephew was here, Jakey Poo, or Jake. Anyway, I gotta stop doing that, So let's introduce ourselves to Rachel. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
As always.
Jakey Poo is going to kill us.
Jakey Poo is going to kill us.
Jakey Poo is not 5, as you would think, by the name.
But it doesn't seem to bother him.
No.
Nothing.
No.
And how this all came about was a surprise to Rachel.
Big surprise. I've only been surprised like once, sort of, before. This was like a true surprise.
Right.
I had no idea he was coming. She's like, oh, I have to go to the airport and pick some people up, but the car's too full. You can't come with me. Okay. But I can't come home. It was very, very late at night. And she said, I can't come home to an empty house. You sleeping in the house, in a dark house. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to be like 12:45. I'm so tired. I just want to go to bed. And she said, no, you have to stay up. You have to stay up. So I stayed up, and I heard the car come, and I peeked out the window, and I said, okay, good, she's here. I'm like, what is she doing? I'm ready to go to bed. What is she doing out there? Hurry up. And I looked out the window again, and I saw a dark figure, and I thought, why did she bring the people from the airport back to the house? It's so late. And then I clicked, and I realized that it was Jakey Poo. And I went, Jakey Poo? Jakey Poo? It was great.
It was a great surprise.
Nice. I hadn't seen him in quite some time.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to get to spend some time with him here.
Oh, it was great. It was great to have my niece and nephew here. Just to sit back and listen to the two of them talk, and it was great. I mean, I was very happy.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
Yeah. So
had a great time.
You've been here in Maine, and you've been doing a lot of different things, and
yes,
and that's all. How's things going with work in LA?
Things are going really well, actually.
Good.
I've been very, very, very busy, which is what you want when you work for yourself, when you work freelance.
Yeah.
I've worked on some interesting producing projects, actually. I've really been enjoying some new types of producing content for the trade show world through Convention News Television, and it's wonderful. I got to produce some big general sessions, which are, if you go to a conference, they usually have that big opening where everybody goes in the big room, and the president will come out and they'll talk about what they're doing as an organization, and then they have usually a celebrity keynote speaker. So I got to produce that whole thing. Graphics, music, and the writing of the script for what they say, and it was an awesome experience, and I really enjoyed it. It brought me back to my news days of producing news. Yeah. That once you go live, it's like, you're live.
You're live.
And that's it. All your prep work, you're done. You just hope and pray that everything goes hits all the right buttons and that it goes off without a hitch, and it did. And it was really quite an experience. I've been busy. It's been wonderful. Traveling a lot.
Yeah.
Going to a lot of new places, new cities, and it's been great. And now I had a little break, and it was wonderful to come up here and relax. And
I know. And for those of you who do not understand trade show, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have gone to the boat show or, like the flower show goes on and different things. But when you're in a corporate environment, you have like 3 or 4 days that every major corporation is on one floor, and the buyers come in from all over the country or Europe, and everything's got to be right on point. It's got to be on point. And everything moves very quickly, and you have to take advantage of that time with everybody there. So the pressure is quite high. Your days are long. and you're kind of caught in this trade show world, and what's your favorite trade show?
I've said this before. My favorite show is the SHOT Show. It's in Vegas every year in January, and I have the pleasure of working with a great group of people there, and it's such a unique audience. Their passion for the sports shooting world is so genuine, and they really care about gun safety and their sport and what they do, and they just love it.
Yeah.
And it comes across while they're there, and it's just a blast. So it really is a lot of fun, and the people I get to work with there are just exceptional, along with most of my other clients. They're all really, really wonderful. It's just a very unique field.
Well,
you can't compare, one show to the other necessarily, because their content and what people do for a living is very different. You've got doctors who are doing medical research to save lives, and you've got people who have the shooting sports world where it's just, it's fun and it's a passion, and
right.
So you can't really say that those two are the same or
Every
different.
Every show is different.
Yeah.
Every show.
Everybody's passion for what they do is very different.
Yeah.
And that's the best part of what I get to do, is that I get to see all these different types of people in the world who do all kinds of different things that you could never even imagine, and you get a little glimpse into what their life is like.
Oh yeah.
And how they do what they do, and it's really quite interesting.
It is interesting because every trade show, there's a trade show for everything in your house.
Everything.
If you look around your house, there's a trade show for it. And it's a great, great marketing tool for all companies. Mm-hmm. They spend millions and millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Big money. And it's very important what we do, providing video content for them at their show and giving exposure to people in that top market of the top 3 days when they have the most buyers and suppliers in their world. And
well, give the audience an idea. Once you get the call to do a show, give us the breakdown all the way up to showtime.
You get a call and they say, do you want to project manage this video content for a trade show? Usually you usually get several months of planning, 4 months about. You have an initial call with the client. What do you hope to accomplish with this video? What kind of content do you want us to cover specifically while we're there? Which things do you want us to feature? And we design graphics. We create promotional videos for them before the show to promote the event. There's a range of things you can do. But it's a long process. And then as you get closer to showtime, you have to put together a schedule for the filming for each day, and I have to assign the crews and do some script writing and get some content approved. And then once you're on site, you go. All the prep work is in place, and you just hit the ground running and produce great content. And then we distribute it everywhere online, in hotels that are in the town that you're in the hotel rooms and shuttle buses, but that's what they do.
Yeah, and this is something that once you're there and you've got the prep work finished, you've got to count on a lot of other people.
Yes.
And I have always found that very difficult, because when you start a project, you start it, you know what you're doing. If you bring a couple people in to help you, it's almost as if you're explaining to them what you need from them, and you pull them in because they have a certain talent. But I know I always walk away going, okay, did I tell them everything? I'll have notes, A, B, and C, but you still have that underlying fear that okay, you forgot something. It might be major, and it might throw this off. Everything is a might. So you really have to go into it really covering your bases.
So in the entertainment field, what advice would you share with me that's like been the two things you've learned the most?
Be direct. Know who you're talking to even though you don't know them. Know if they're sensitive. Know if they're, control freak, whatever, and choose your words when you need to ask them information or if you want information from them. I've learned that every individual is completely different. When you're in the trade show industry, you can't throw, or any industry, you can't throw a blanket over all the people and say, I'm going to do this, because you're going to have a problem over here. So whoever you're dealing with in a high-profile situation, be able to read people quickly.
How can you learn that if somebody doesn't know what that means, like to be able to read somebody?
For me, it's taken years of experience in dealing with very bad people, very good people, people who cannot make a decision, just every walk of life. And I think with time and dealing with this, you just know. And I follow my gut. I follow my gut. And also I go into it that I'm going to go in and do 110%. And if they're not happy with a few certain things, I will tell them, tell me what you're not happy with. And if we can't get beyond that, then we really have a problem. But on the most half, you can get beyond that. But it's really being very direct with your questions.
I had a really interesting conversation with a stranger, and she was asking me, well, what do you do, and where are you from? And I told her what I do, and she said, oh, well, you're a business owner. And I went, oh, I never really thought about, I'm a freelancer, I work for myself.
Right.
But I am the owner of my business,
right.
of one.
Of one.
There's no subtext in the definition of business that you have to have 25 employees.
No.
And that was something that really stuck with me, that all of us are just a business of one. I'm a business owner, and I'm responsible for my business and what happens and where it goes. And
you are the product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I think, really important to figure out how to brand your business and market yourself for what you want. And it can be as simple as one person, just me, and you've done it for just you, and you've also done it for multiple businesses.
Right.
So what's the difference between marketing a business of one and having a business of, let's just take the trade show business that we had, the agency.
I think when I owned the agency, I had a few things to think of. My overhead, bringing in the client, which took a lot of cold calling. And cold calling, 99% of the people hate cold calling. I always loved it.
Why?
I like talking to strangers. I don't like talking to people I know.
Except me.
Except you. I like talking to strangers. And the time that I was making cold calling, and clients in major Fortune 500 companies were picking up the phone and saying, okay, what do you have different from this agency or that agency? And I could tell them. So once I brought in that client, then I would have to sit down and say, okay, what is your purpose in the show? What is your goal? What do you want the talent to do? Again, a meeting. Then they pick their talent. Now we come to a point where if the talent is not on point or working hard, I could lose the account. So everything I worked for would be gone and down the drain. So now all that work I'm handing over to a talent going into a trade show, and as much as I train her, as much as I talk to her, you still do not have a comfort feel until the show is over. You don't.
So the stress level is
Oh.
significantly different because you have to rely on other people.
That's the hard part.
When you're a business of
One,
one, it's just you.
It's just you and your ideas and going forward.
Yeah.
And if you have an idea, usually if you come up with it and you try it, it's usually a pretty good thing. I mean, I know my most creative ideas came from being pushed against the wall. Last minute timing. Boom, I'd come out with the idea.
I think that's part of a result of you have to be in the moment in those moments.
Yeah,
Because
you
if
do.
you're faced with a challenge, you have to go, okay, you have to think about it right there and go,
Right.
what are we going to do? How are we going to solve this?
Yeah.
And that's when that creativity will
It will kick in because at that point you're in a survival mode and you need to make it work. You have no other option but to make it work.
Yes, that's what Tim Gunn says. It's a make it work moment.
It's a make it work moment. But if all else fails and it doesn't work, you have to walk away from it. You have to walk away and not feel, oh, I failed, I this, I that. You know in your heart you did all you could do. And the biggest mistake, I think, is people who walk away from those situations and they feel they failed. So for the next client, they're paranoid, and the next client. So you really need to condition yourself mentally that you didn't fail.
You just learned.
You just learned.
That's a hard thing to
It's
do.
a hard thing to do.
To switch that line of thinking to it wasn't a failure.
No. You were put into a situation and you did everything you could do.
Yeah.
But you have to walk away from it and not look back.
Yeah, not carry that emotion.
You can't.
Or that emotional baggage with you as you go on to the next.
No, you can't.
I think it's important. You have to stop and take that time to examine what happened. And a lot of people have a hard time with that self-examination.
People take things personal. Elvis Presley said, taking care of business, TBC. Yeah, business is business. And you're going to do what you need to do for that. Necessarily in your personal life can be much different. Business is business.
Yeah.
You know,
Something interesting you said about when you were running your business, you were able to rattle off the reasons why you were different to a Fortune 500 company. How were you able to figure out those points, of difference that you had?
well, I knew my competition. One thing about that is any competition I had, I was never threatened by it. I never wanted to know what they were doing.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to ruin my creativity. So
then you would be comparing
I would be comparing.
yourself. Oh, they've done it this way. They're successful, so I should be doing this,
Right.
or I should be doing that, and that's not it.
No.
Okay.
That's what I was avoiding, exactly that. But I also knew when I walked through a trade show, and you have a trade show book with all the companies, and you walk through the show, and you mark off the companies that you see talent in their booth. So I'm not going to approach them on the trade show floor. I do not feel that's ethical. I've had other agents walk into my booth and not know who I am and walk up to me and say, I'm from such and such agency, here's my card. I see you have talent in your booth, and I'm the agent that put them in there. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, you don't check anything out. And I would just let them talk off their little speech and throw their information away. That was it.
Yeah.
And how I knew was when I would walk through the show, if I would see the talent in the booth who was chewing gum or leaning against the counter, or they didn't look the part. The first day of the show, usually most of the owners of the agencies are going to be on the trade show floor. When I didn't see them on the trade show floor, so I could pull in my points and say, well, our talent are a lot more manicured. Our talent are half hour early. I want the information for your show like a week before so the talent can study it. So I really covered the bases of letting that company know they were very important, which made me completely different. But it was common sense. It wasn't magic. It wasn't anything.
Right. Common sense.
Common sense.
Yeah. People just want to be acknowledged.
Yeah. They want
seen.
Right. They want to feel like they're the one and only.
Because we all feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you want to feel like you're part of something, or part of this world, or that what you're doing every day.
Yeah.
At least somebody is like, oh, you're doing something today.
Right.
You're important. You're enough.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Right. People need
Simple.
acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Even a major corporation, the people you're working with, you have a goal. I mean, I worked with the major beverage companies. I mean, those are high profile. There's no room for mistake. I mean, I know I would talk to the talent, the client would supply the wardrobe and the shoes. If there was a scuff on the shoe, I had to fire the talent. That's how detailed you get. So it's the way the game is played.
Yeah.
So you cannot feel bad. You might feel bad, but you're not showing it. And that goes back to what we've talked about. Don't let other people control your emotions.
Yes.
Because that's a kiss of death.
Yes. That's something you've said to me many years. And I understand that from a logical place. But it's taken me a little bit of time to make sense of that in my life.
You saw it in play this trip.
I did. I saw it exactly in play, how people will try to evoke a response from you to control you by just saying, we're not friends anymore, for example.
Right.
Or I'm not speaking to you, like a 3-year-old toddler in the corner, right? And that they want you to respond emotionally and go, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. How can I fix it? How can I make it better? Which is fine. And that should happen in certain situations. However, the way you respond to that allows them to control you. Because if you go, oh, I'm so sorry. Right. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I won't do whatever I did again. So now, okay, so everything's fine. And then you move forward with this friendship. And when now anytime you go to tell them something, you're going to be on edge going,
absolutely.
Are they going to react again? Are they going to threaten me and say, oh, I'm not going to be your friend again? And now they're in control of how you feel and how you act. So it's just very crucial to make a conscious choice when you're in a difficult situation of how you want it to go. Instead of reacting off of emotion or off the handle, it's important to take that moment and go, okay, what's going to happen here? If I do X, they're going to do this, and then this is going to happen. And it requires a lot of mental work, but it's very important for yourself.
Very important. I mean, in this situation in particular.
Right, in this example.
In this example, the person who did not approve of my actions lives in a glass house.
Right. Because we're all we're people that come into our lives and are a mirror of where we're at, right? So depending on where you're at in your life, they show you, and it changes. It can even change from the time you meet somebody 5 years from then. You can see them in a completely different light based on where you're at and how you grow and how you change.
True. And in this situation, these people felt a lot of disapproval, but do I care? I look at that and I go, you're living in a world that you don't communicate, you don't talk, and you have the nerve to say, well, I don't approve of what you're doing. Do I care? Because I do not have respect for their judgment. So, you move on from that, you take that information in, you listen to it, as I did, and the only thing in my mind was what a disappointment they were. That's it.
I think it's difficult to get to that place. We're all so ingrained as kids from the beginning that, you don't hurt somebody's feelings, you apologize to them, you say you're sorry,
right,
and you don't want to have conflict, or at least that's a big...
When you're younger, yes.
Yeah. So how do you make that switch when you're older?
When you're older, you find that as you...
And I just mean older, not like a 5-year-old.
I know. I think with life experiences, as you go along, as you meet so many people in your life, you learn that you are your person, you have you to count on. When people make a judgment on what they think you did was wrong, they have no right. They can voice it, absolutely voice it.
Yeah.
But if the shoe was on the other foot, I would hear it, I might not agree with it, I might say, well, what do you think of this? No, I'm going to do this. Okay, fine. I don't care what you're going to do. So I think over the years of learning with different people and the way some people try to control you, some people who try to use guilt, they try to use emotion, they try to be superior, whatever it may be. You learn to recognize that, and you automatically have a response of, till you're paying my bills and putting food on my table. That's kind of where it goes.
Yeah.
It turns, I think, it could turn in your early 20s. Some people, it doesn't happen till they're 50. Depends on their life experience and how much respect they have for themselves. There's no rule to that. If you're open to the change and you're tired of feeling like people are walking all over you, like at a trade show, you have to be subservient in a way to keep the client, to keep the work going. But in your personal life, you've got to protect you. It just comes at different times.
Yeah. I think what you just said is really important with people if they respect themselves or where they're at, that's a good tool, I think, to when it comes to business or just anything in the world that you want to accomplish, is using that as a way to look at people if you're trying to read them and see how they are and where they're at. It's just seeing how they talk about themselves. What are they saying? Are they... How do they speak about what they're doing? And then that's a quick and easy way to figure out where somebody's at so that you know how to approach them.
Exactly. I learned a long time ago that you need to let the other person talk about their feelings and what's bothering them. Because you may come into a situation where you assume you know. You assume that you're going to walk in there and go boom, 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 boom. And that might not even be the problem. But to walk in and ask a person or whatever, what is bothering you? Hear them out. Hear them out completely. Because it might not even be what you're thinking. Then you can approach it the way it needs to be approached.
Another way of saying that is not having expectations.
True.
Not going into something with an expectation
right.
of what they're going to say or where they're at. Because then you'll just be disappointed if you're wrong, which usually you are.
Because you automatically, you look at what you possibly could have done wrong. And normally it's not that. So
Again, it comes back to being in the moment
in the moment,
and just listening
well,
to what people are saying.
yeah, you have to hear them out first.
Right.
Let them talk. And if they know what you're thinking first, which might be all wrong, it could lead to an argument. And why do you want to do that? Talk it out. Because a long time ago in business, I learned when we would be at a conference meeting, and the first one that would speak would lose power in the whole room, the whole situation. You lose power. And how I learned was I spoke first. And I thought, no. So I just would sit back and greet everybody with a big smile and let everybody talk. And once I got in my information, I could come out with something that was to the point and done. It's an all on how you handle it from the beginning.
Okay, what other advice do you have for me?
What-
Anything else you want to tell me?
Oh,
I do this to her every time I'm here. I say, anything else I need to know? Anything else you need to tell
she wants
me?
to know that, I didn't tell her anything, but I told her everything. I don't know, you're doing fabulous.
Well, that's not what I was looking for.
I know, but there's no, you have learned a lot sooner than I did the do's and don'ts.
So much of that is because of you, though,
Well-
and what you've been through in your experience. And I have the option to pick up the phone and call you and ask you for help and advice
Right.
when I'm in the middle of it, because you've already lived it.
I've already lived it. But my goal is for you to learn sooner than I did. And it's just going to give you a lot more information and wisdom. We've had our talks about different things and business and corporate and personal life. And you've pulled it together and you finally learned, I believe, that you need to do what's right for you. You need to hold you tight because you're going for a career. You're in a different line of work than any of your friends that you went to college with, then you went to high school with. Some of you stay in touch, some of you don't, so be it. They might have gone off and got married and they want to have a family. That's wonderful for them.
Yes.
That's not your goal. That was never my goal. So you can't compare any of that. But you've learned that you're not going to pick up and go because somebody wants you to go. You have learned to contain your energy, your focus, and take care of Rachel. And whatever toxic energy that's out there, you have learned to avoid it. That's the best advice I can give you.
Okay.
Because it's going to make you a whole person and make you focused on your career.
Yep.
And I am so happy that you saw what I meant by action in don't let other people control your emotions.
Yes.
You got to see it. Well,
Yes.
For example, yesterday morning, I had to go meet a client in Biddeford Pool. And about 3 years ago, one of my dogs got loose. The collar, the plastic little collars, it broke, and I didn't know it. And the name of the company assures you that your pet is just fine, and my dog got killed, got hit by a car. And I go running out there, and there's this woman yelling over my shoulder, "I'm so-and-so, I'm so-and-so." And here I'm dealing with my dog.
Right.
And I just didn't want to hear anything. It was just not good. Yesterday, after 3 years of me avoiding hearing about anything about that accident, I go to a client's house. I'm introduced to this woman. And what was her first words to me? "Oh, I killed your dog." And she's smiling. I said, "I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it. I'm backing off. Well, you were there. Yeah, I was there. Don't talk about it because it hurt. Mm-hmm. So that approach was like, okay, I was confronted, caught me off guard, and I just kind of pulled it together, and she got the hint to leave. Mm-hmm. And the client and I sat down, we didn't bring it up, we talked about business, and I was done and out of there. Mm-hmm. But that was something in a personal part of my life that was over here that I'm thinking, I don't even want to deal with this. She was going too fast. Mm-hmm. And where I live, that's really bad. Mm-hmm. And it's vacation time. Mm-hmm. So it's all in how you handle it.
It's interesting how the universe brings you things that you need to deal with, and you could have looked at that situation as if just, oh, I had a horrible day, this horrible experience, and you can wallow and go down that road, or you can look at it at, okay, I needed to deal with this.
Yeah.
I needed to run into this person so that we can clear the air and be done and move on.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I did.
And it's just all about the perspective you have on it.
Yeah. I had a day to do. And I just finally had to acknowledge it because she was right in front of me. Mm-hmm. And it didn't even click when they introduced us. Didn't even click in my mind until she said that. Mm-hmm. So what advice do you have for me? Huh?
Keep doing what you're doing. You're fabulous. You've lived more than 9 lives, different lives. You've done so many different things. You always have been able to start any kind of business. You are an entrepreneur since you were a little girl. Didn't you have like an animal hospital?
Yeah.
The truckers at the truck stop would bring you baby animals and sick animals, and you would nurse them back to health. I mean, it's in who you are, your essence of being able to just create successful businesses, which you have. And I think my advice for you would be to just keep having fun.
Oh, I am.
Keep having fun, keep creating. I know that you've got some creative projects up your sleeve that will see the light of day someday very soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for the world to see that and for you to share that part of your story. But I think just keep sharing your wisdom with everybody. I'm so lucky that I get to just text you or call you and get the advice that I need, and keep doing that here. Because people need it. And people can't afford the $3,000 online course of how to make money and how to do this and how to do that. And
true.
What you do here, I think, is really wonderful, giving back to people, because it comes back.
It does come back.
As you know.
I know. Thank you for the advice.
Thank you for the advice.
No, there's a lot of people here in Maine. I mean, I love everybody here that I've met. The classes that I taught them for free to help people get out of their own way. You know, people say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. When I retire, they never do. Mm-mm. They never do. Mm-mm. And, you know, oh, I really have an eye for this. And they just don't. Mm-hmm. They waste time. So if I can be of help, and I've always said this on the show, let me know.
Yeah.
Here at the studio, we're very open to all of this, and we'll help. There was one more point I wanted to make, but it just kind of went poof.
Well, I'll say this, and you can think about it, but just do it. People say, oh, I wanna, I should do this. Mm-hmm. The first step of getting rid of that fear is to just take that first step, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Take that paintbrush to the canvas and just play, and that immediately removes the fear that you've created up in your head when it comes to doing something different.
Yeah.
And I jumped off the back of a sailboat this weekend.
And it was cold water, as all of you know.
All of you know that's nuts. And I wanted to jump off the boat into the water. I just felt very inclined to do that. And I climbed down the back of the ladder, and I'm going, oh, wait, maybe I don't want to do this. I don't know. It's going to be really cold.
I know.
What's going to happen? What if there's fish in the water? What if there's a shark in the water? What if the boat goes away and I have to swim to it?
Look at this.
Right? You do all of this, right?
Yeah.
All of these things, and your heart's racing, and you're holding on, and they're going, jump, jump. Now's the time to jump. And you just have to let go.
Yeah.
And I didn't just jump in once.
No.
I jumped in 3 times.
Yes, you did.
Even knowing how freaking cold that water was.
Yeah.
I mean, the minute I hit the water, my toes up to my calves were, tingling.
Oh, yeah.
But it was something I had to do to just go.
You had to let go, and that's the key word. You let go.
Yeah.
You were baptized.
Yeah, even though it's scary, and you know the fears of what could come, right?
No, sure.
I could get hypothermia. I could get attacked by a shark. I could, you think of all these things, but none of those things happen.
No.
And so when you put up those blocks in your life and whatever you're doing, I could fail at this business. I could lose everything. I could do this. Well, you do the prep work. You get all your information, like you said.
Yeah.
Do your research. Look at how other companies have failed or succeeded. Take little bits of what they've done and make your own and add your own flair to it, like you said.
Yeah.
You don't want to compare to other people. But if somebody's already doing it, take their business model and then add what you have to offer, because what you have is different than anybody else. There's no one else like you.
No, there could be 3 people having a lemonade stand. Mm-hmm. Same lemonade, same everything, next door to each other. But one is going to be more popular. Mm-hmm. Same thing, same everything. Mm-hmm. But it's about you and your personality. It's about you, how you make people feel, to bring them into your lemonade stand. Mm-hmm. I learned from a major client years ago when I was trying to put a promo piece together, and he said exactly what you just said. Mm. Look at other people's marketing tools that are successful and use that model and add your own into it. Mm-hmm. You're not doing a copyright. You're not doing anything wrong.
No.
But if they paid the money and they did all the work and it's out there, save yourself a lot of grief and money and put your own into that outline. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, you have to add in your own.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to separate you from the other company and make you different.
Absolutely. So, honey, we're running out of time.
Okay.
How fun was this?
This was great.
It's always fun.
I feel as if we got to share one of our conversations that we get to have.
Yeah.
Without all the lights and the cameras. And usually curled up in bed with a glass of wine.
Yes.
And the dogs.
And
people got to have a little glimpse into it.
Yeah. Because it's just so much. And, I have no words. She's doing fabulous.
So she.
Well, we're both fabulous.
Yes.
We're both Leos. So that tells you a lot.
Yes.
Well, honey, thank you for being here again this year. And
thank you for having me.
You'll come back next year and we'll continue our conversation on where you're at that time and where I'm at that time, and continue the growth and the information, and hopefully our audience got a little something out of this.
It was an information dump.
Oh,
there should be some information in there for anybody, wherever you're at. There was something that hopefully will spark something. For where you're at.
Just don't be afraid. Just don't be afraid. Yep. Just go and do it and not live on the words. Well, I'm eventually going to do it. Mm-hmm. You're not. So
You take the fear away by jumping into that
Jump
cold
in.
Atlantic.
Whoosh. So on that note, my love, I love you.
I love you.
And let's go have fun after the show here.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go play.
Let's go play. And I want to thank all of you for watching our show today, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.